person out in the world. I believe our video's live. Ooh, I do have a person. Hi, Judy. Welcome to Friday of Canadian Thanksgiving long weekend. Hi, Neil. Good to see a few of you joining us. Got a fun day today. I'm going to make something on camera. I haven't done that in a little while. I'm going to call this work. Let a few more people join us. Whole computer had a little moment a few minutes ago, so it's just kind of pokey today. Hi, Anne. Hi, Carol. So I'm going to make a mug rug today. Show you all my top secret mug rug tips and tricks. Ooh, there is fun things behind me. We're making mug rugs today. Gonna let a few more people join us, and then I'll get rolling on the relevant things. I'm good today. I'm really good today. It's been an absolutely beautiful fall. We're going into Thanksgiving with, you know, just a few frosty nights here in Calgary, not dreadfully many. And I have wild plans to embroider all weekend. sounds like a hard life, right? Not really seeing family because it's kind of not legal again this year. So seeing some family in a socially distanced way, but mostly I'm going to hide at home and enjoy a long weekend. My kids were off today, so they were quite miffed that I had to come to work and that my husband had to work. So I'm going to make work not work this afternoon, and I'm going to embroider and do a sample for you guys and tell you my tips and tricks for the project. So what I've got for you guys today, we are going to make one of the mug rugs from the Warm and Cozy Mug Rugs and Cup Wraps CDs. So that particular design CD we have coming. It had some issues getting across the border. They are on their way. And it is the free CD from OESD for this month. And to get your hands on the free CD for October, you need to spend $89 in OESD product. So that would be OESD stabilizers, OESD tools like scissors. I've got a point and press with me today. I've got scissors with me today. Isocord thread, yen met thread, scissor tail stitches designs, OESD designs. Any combination of all of those, $89 will get you the free CD for the month, which I don't have any trouble getting that high when I shop for embroidery things. But definitely if you don't have endless money, budget accordingly each month. There's a free CD next month as well called Warm and Cozy Embroidery, which is more like embroidery that you can plunk on top of other things. Also, warm and cozy themed gingerbread, cuddle in a cup kind of things. Ooh, I am going to answer Anne's question before I get totally sidetracked by mug rug questions. For OESD tiling scenes, that's one of the announcements I should make anyway. So if you were here for Facebook Live yesterday, I talked about tiling scenes. We're running it as a class this fall, starting October 20th. It's going to run over 3 sessions, each 3 weeks apart. There's a lot of embroidery to do in a tiling scene, so we're going to give you some time to do homework in between. OESD's directions do say to use 2 layers of heavyweight tearaway or cutaway. I've used heavyweight tearaway in my designs, and the stitching is super dense, so it is necessary to keep the pull and drift from being a problem in your blocks as you go. So they do need to be heavily stabilized. Not all of them, but definitely the super stitch intensive ones from Donna Gelsinger's artwork. They need a lot of stabilizer. So that's the first class that I'll talk about. Next class, I'm doing the Remember wall hanging. It's a raw edged applique scenery piece. It can be cut on the scan and cut. It can be cut with scissors. One of my, Shania Sunga is the designer. She's a Canadian designer. One of my absolute favorite applique designers to work with my scan and cut. Her patterns were great. And then we'll do some, you know, stitching all that raw edged applique down, embellishing with thread. Have a wall hanging all ready, kind of Remembrance Day themed, but it will be ready to, you should be done at the end of class on November 10th. Potentially gift away to a veteran or somebody who's served our country for the 11th. And the kit is $49. You'll have all the tips and tricks. You'll have a finished project, all just for the cost of the kit. I think that's reasonable. Other things coming up in the next 2 weeks, we've got Bernina Creative Studio. Next week's technique is on using decorative threads on your serger. And then the embroidery is like a quilted hot pad done with the embroidery. The project, I don't remember what it is, but software, we're talking about cross stitch. So those are the things coming up right away in the calendar. Another item coming up really soon is Winter Wonderland, which is a Kimberbell event. We're running that November 5th and 6th. I have capped registration it. So I have kits on their way. They're not all spoken for, but it's getting too late to get any more in the mail. So if you want into that class, don't hesitate, don't wait, get signed up. You can call the store to do that or email orderdesk@mysewingroom.ca. That even if you're new to embroidery, the Kimberbell events are really designed for a new user to step in and have success. So don't feel like, oh, I'm too new to embroidery, I can't do that class. I do tech support for those classes. I highly say that we'll get you over that hurdle of being a new embroiderer. Spend 2 days with us. I have super duper limited in-store seating, where we could have 1 or 2 people join us in store. Provided you pass, you know, you can show us your vaccine record if you're going to hang out with us all day. Not an issue if you're just coming to shop. We do have the other way of managing people in the store and capping at fire code limits as per provincial guidelines at the moment, which if you've been following any of that, those keep changing. It's a nightmare to try and keep up. So those things are classes coming up. We've also booked Tis the Season to Sparkle, November 24th. December, first week of December, Sugar Plum Jubilee. First week of January 2022. If you're looking to buy yourself a Christmas present, sign up for My Punny Valentine. It's a 1-day event. It's so stinking cute. And we've got bonus things coming with our kits because we booked our events so early. So those are all in the calendar, ready to go. I'm excited. They're going to be good. Other things that arrived today that people have been waiting patiently for. So it isn't October 8th. Generally, we have these things the 1st of October. However, there's been shipping delays because that's the story of 2021. Our fill in the blank. So Kimberbell fill in the blank arrived today. Dawn worked her butt off today to get them kitted. So if you would like the free design of Welcome Home Pumpkin in either regular machine sewing version or machine embroidery version, you can buy the blank, which is the gray tea towel set, one with the dot, one with the stripe. And then you can get just the blanks, or you can get the blanks with the kit. So that's the glitter vinyl and the velveteen and the pretty fabrics, all to do that applique on there. So this is available in store. We can sell this one virtually. So it can go home. You can buy the kit, you can order it, and we can email you the design. The only way to get the design is to buy the kit or the blank. That's how that program works. But it arrived just a few days late. So here we are. It's here. Voila! So anyway, I'm going to carry on. The project I'm working on today, the Warm and Cozy Mug Rugs, the free CD for October. OESD used these fabrics in their designs this year, and we have those in store in bundles. So if they're rolled up like this, there are a fat 1/8 bundle. We also have fat 1/4 bundles of all the coordinating fabrics. And maybe you don't use those grays for your Christmas projects, but they're there in the bundle. And there's a really pretty, sparkly white in there. So fat 8 bundles and fat 1/4 bundles. Cotton Shot is the name of the fabric line. And that's the fabric hanging out in the back of the display over there. And then Dawn's made thread kits to coordinate with all of this. It's all good. So without further ado, let's make a mug rug. I'm gonna switch to that camera for just a minute. Based on the directions from OESD, they're using ultra clean and tear. Definitely doable in a mug rug. Most of the mug rugs I've made with polymesh. Both will work. Polymesh is nice and soft, and it's still easy to turn when you go to actually turn your mug rug right side out. We are making this mug rug from start to finish completely in the hoop. There's no other sewing required. I'm going to use polymesh. I know personally in this kind of scenario, I'm going to be trimming some applique. It's going to be coming on and off the machine a few times. This is going to make me happier, but clean and tear would totally work as well. So we'll get that in the hoop. Just a point of note, if it's just stabilizer in your hoop, it does need to be fairly tight. If you ever have fabric in the hoop, you don't want to be pulling on that. And then we're just going to follow, I have my directions so that I know what's going on. We're going to do a whole bunch of applique in with our embroidery hoop, and then we're going to do a bunch of decorative stitching, and then we'll have a finished mug rug, and we'll go home for the weekend. That sounds like how we're going to roll. So I'm just going to get this design opened. This particular mug rug does fit in a 6x10 hoop. It is too wide to fit in a 5x7 hoop. So if your hoops aren't big enough to make mug rugs, we can help you find a machine with a bigger hoop. But essentially the way this is going to go, we're going to do a placement line for our batting and backing and white fabric, or batting and white fabric. And I'm actually just using the very first thread color that will get stitched out as a design detail, which is light green, or whatever other color you think you need. Need to know who's stitching on this machine last. It's set on slow speed. Okay, first things first. I have that lovely placement line all done. I'm going to take this back over here for just a moment. On this particular mug rug, they're calling for batting as well as fusible fleece ironed to the white fabric. This is going to give it nice, some nice loft. It's going to be lovely. Yeah, we're on the right camera. There is small lines that just stitch to the side of this design. That's going to help us line up our back pieces when we're all done. We're just going to color those lines in over to the edge of our hoop so we can see them when we get further along here. It's going to be outside our project when we're all done, so it doesn't matter what color you use. And then my white fabric, I am going to put the fusible fusion fleece on it. So this is an OESD product, medium iron. It's a very, very, very thin batting, but it's going to give, it behaves almost more like an interfacing. It's going to give our white fabric a little bit of body. It'll be less puckery once we get it embroidered. And it's lovely stuff to work with. I really, really like fusion fleece for a whole variety of other things. I use it in the back of my scenery appliques so that I do my decorative stitching through it. If it's just raw edge applique, rather than stitching through my entire quilt sandwich and having a whole bunch of detail stitching there. So This is going to cover that placement and stitch line. Oh, and I'm going to put a piece of batting in there too. I'm going to make this so it really protects my table when I put a mug of hot cocoa on here. Batting usually stays stuck in the hoop quite nicely. Fabric should stay stuck to that quite nicely. Our next stitch is a tack down, and we could tape this all in the hoop. So we don't put our fingers in the hoop. That's really the key. Don't put your fingers in the hoop. I'm going to use some OESD tearaway tape. I could have taped that when I was on the table. That would have been smarter. You don't want to press down on your stabilizer. You don't want to distort it as you go. So this is going to be our tack down for our batting, our white fabric with fusible fleece. Our next stitch is a placement line for our dark red fabric. This is going to be on the edge of my mug rugs as a, you know, swoopy detail piece. We're going to get into the actual applique steps. Oop, there's a red and dark red. I'm doing both of mine red. That's okay. So our next piece here, if you can see, there's a placement line there. We're going to cover that completely. I'm just going to shimmy that other piece of tape upward for a moment. Maybe it'll come out of there. It's a pretty generous piece of red fabric. We're going to do our tack down. Oh, Patty, I'm glad to hear you like the embroidery channel. Been doing top secret embroidery at home and haven't been embroidering at work lately. I realize that's a problem for everybody else. OESD's tack down lines are very, very lovely. They're a double line, so even if you cut through the outer one, when you're trimming your applique fabric out, usually not a big deal. And you never want to trim your fabric with your hoop in the air. We want to pull that hoop right off, keep it flat on the table. And with OESD designs, you do want to trim very close to that applique fabric. On this case, the outer edge here is going to end up in our seam allowance, and I'm not going to trim that out. Otherwise, I'm going to have my turned fabric right at the edge of my thing, and I don't want it popping out from the outer seam line. So trimming right next to that outer stitching line. And I'm going to leave that outer piece in my seam allowance for the mug rug. I'm going to do just the same red in both cases. My favorite way of doing this is with curved scissors. I have no idea. I'm not zoomed close enough for that right now. I'll figure out how to zoom in on that camera while I'm stitching the next piece. Our next piece is our other red fabric detail. It doesn't have to be red. I'm going to make it red. It's the opposite corner. So we're going to do our placement line. Put our fabric down, follow up with a tack down line and a trim. Get creative. You can usually wiggle a lot of your applique out of the same little scrap. You never want to put your fingers in the hoops. So if you're going to be tempted to hold things down, tape them in place. We'll do our tack down. Run for us. Take that off and trim this piece off. Let's reseat my bobbin. It's not. Again, I'm not trimming right into the seam allowance side of this, just trimming the decorative side of that applique piece off. Save my little tiny piece of tape for the next step. To this camera, and then I'll answer questions. If you were making a mat using cork front and back, stitch the design on the front, and then at the end, yep, add the back cork at the end. Depending on how you wanted that, you might still want to turn it. Cork doesn't always turn super well, though. Let me think through that project, Audrey. I have a super light colored gingerbread man. I like my gingerbread not crispy, which not everybody agrees with. Some people like their gingerbread super crispy. They're wrong. I don't like my cookies super crispy. I want them chewy. However, I want my apples super crispy. So everybody's different. Doing light brown for our gingerbread. You could use Ultra Clean and Tear with the cork for sure. And as far as assembly at the end goes, you might have to experiment with how you want to deal with that. Let's trim out the applique of our gingerbread man. All done with all my fancy tape. Almost. Need some fancy tape at the end. And take your time trimming your applique. It gets easier the more you do. Just learning how to handle your curved scissors is part of the battle. That's always tricky at the beginning. But curved scissors, you want to keep them flat to the fabric. The curve will keep them from nipping into the lower layer that you don't want to trim out. And then I turn my hoop as I go because I can't cut backwards. It confuses me. By all means, if these aren't your Christmas colors, make one to see what order it all goes together. And then you'll be able to easily see which threads you want to change and when. You know, the stitching order and what bits are grouped and not grouped. These are not the scissors I normally use for applique trimming. They're lovely, but they're not the ones I'm used to. They feel different. It's all good. So, we are on to our string of lights. I could do in light green, or I could do in... Let's find the top secret cheat sheet. Light green bulbs. Let's do light green bulbs. We have a plan. That's the color I have. Off we go. Just gonna sneak out of the video. Color thread. You guys didn't see any of that. I'm sorry. We'll switch cameras now. I stitched out the first leafy or light bulbs. Now I'm gonna go. It says medium red, but I'm gonna use orange because orange cracks me up. Ooh. Yeah. Denise, you'll have to watch the replay. Maybe I'll flash things in front of you. Again. Just for those people who missed the very beginning. Kimberbill, welcome home, fill in the blank. Is here. It arrived today. Yes, message. If you guys want anything, the best way to get your hands on it is to email orderdesk@mysewiner.ca or give us a call or come into the store. All of those are options. And we don't have any wonky hours for Thanksgiving because we're not open on Mondays anyway. So all of us office staff who are here on Mondays are going to be so confused on Monday when we're not here. My mug rug has orange lights on it because I can. It's also gonna have pink lights on it because I can. So from here to here to almost the end, it's just a lot of thread changes to do all the detail stitching on this mug rug. I have all the top secret tips for getting your mug rug turned and super duper flat. Sure, if any of you have ever owned Christmas lights that came on a dark green string, because that's just how Christmas lights come. Theoretically, that dark green string hides beautifully in your Christmas tree, which makes it really hard to find the cords when your cat chews through them. And you wonder why your Christmas tree doesn't light up anymore. Like, part of it lights up, but it's not wired in a way that can keep going if you chew all the way through the cord. Lights are super pretty. Like, they're well digitized. They're just really, really lovely. Got some texture and dimension to them. I'm a big fan. Which always makes it faster to stitch. My mic is off. I'm not talking. Maybe my mic is on. there's no way for me to easily turn my mic off while I'm talking on Facebook. You're welcome, Debbie, Becker, Matthew. I'm watching the Embroidery channel and not talking anymore. How about that? Checking how much longer we have to stitch here. A lot of detail stitching in this one. The next stitching here is the satin stitch cover along the edge of the red detailing. I'm gonna do that pink because I can. You do that red? I'm gonna do that red. That's the executive decision. There's not one right answer here, other than somebody super tangled my thread before putting it back on the spool here. Goodness gracious. I have a mess of thread. We'll get rid of the extra on that in a moment here. So other things of note, well, I have you guys trapped watching me and the embroidery channel. If you would like an NQ3600, I have them on clearance pricing because they have been replaced by Brother. They're absolutely lovely machines, Disney embroidery capable, 6x10 hoop size. One of my favorites in the Brother lineup. It's a sewing and embroidery machine, but how could you go wrong with Disney designs? Couple that would like a new home. Let's have some trade-in machines that want new homes. A bit of a trade-in run in September. Lots of people wanted to trade in their old machines and get new ones. And now all those trade-ins need their new forever home. We're kind of like the SPCA, except for sewing machines. Where you tell us what you want, and maybe we'll find you. We'll work on finding you just the right sewing machine to go home with you. The questionnaire is shorter, though, than adopting a puppy. Also, secondhand sewing machine doesn't come with bad habits like a previously loved puppy does. Much easier to adopt it into your home. Have to be careful watching embroidery stitch out. Sometimes it makes me sleepy. Get mesmerized by the needle and get hypnotized and forget that I'm supposed to do things. Just watch it go. Off we go to finishing the satin stitch around the outside of our gingerbread man. Got a very goldy brown with me right now. Off we go. I'm not using a bigger needle. I'm still using a size 80-12. If I was at home, I'd be running a 90-14 embroidery needle. But generally, our store machines have an 80-12 in them. If you find you're having issues with stitch formation, definitely going up a needle size can help. Makes a bigger hole to pull that thread through. It's usually more of an issue when there's stitching over top of stitching than when there's just like a satin outline through your applique. With the fusible products in there, like the OESD Fusion Fleece, if you find things are sticky, you're better off adding a chrome finish needle in. The chrome finish or a non-stick finish, so if you use something like 505 spray and a fusible product, a chrome finish needle can help with that. And those are from Schmetz. There's chrome finish embroidery needles. That's probably how I would make my mug rugs. I was organized. Question, we'll be in touch. Been a little busy this week. We will be in touch, I promise. If you guys have questions about classes that are ongoing or coming up and you need more information, you can email education@mysewingroom.ca. And if there's things you want, like embroidery designs in a machine, or the fill in the blank for Kimberbell, or to sign up for a class, contact orderdesk@mysewingroom.ca. And if your machine is having a meltdown and needs some TLC, you can contact our service team. They'll keep your machine running tickety-boo for you. first bit of stitching that goes down is called underlay. Function of underlay in a big wide satin stitch like this is to provide structure underneath so your satin stitch doesn't collapse on you. Very critical. Helps keep things nice and tidy and pretty. It's also a good chance when the underlay is stitching out to make sure that you've got all your threads trimmed out from your fabric and your applique. If you didn't trim tight enough, underlay stage is when you would find out where those hairy bits are sticking out of your actual finish. Oh dear. Embroidery channels make me want a nap. Having fun making this, but watching it go is making my eyes tired. Generally, I'm multitasking at home when I'm doing embroidery. The advantage to two machines. You can sew on one while the other embroiders, and then you don't fall asleep watching the embroidery machine. Face planting in a moving hoop sounds like a very dangerous idea. We're going to do some dark brown detail on our gingerbread man, some shadowing. We're nearing the finish line. The machine says we've stitched 20 out of 28 minutes for the design. So embroidery channel's 8 minutes longer. Super cute mug rug. The next one with the darker brown fabric. It would look a little more gingerbread-like. Not that it doesn't look gingerbread-like. Or maybe this dark brown thread is just a little too dark. OESD did think all that through with the color numbers, but I grabbed random thread today. Not necessarily the colors suggested by the pattern. Because it's all optional. It'll soften up a little bit when we put the white detailing icing on top of the icing on top of the gingerbread cookie. Satin stitch here is about 3.5, 4 millimeters wide. It's not the widest out there, but it's not the most narrow either. I could get a ruler out and measure that. It's about 4 millimeters wide. Billy's got it figured out. Yes. We could just record that. I'll just set it up and walk away. Tyler can just have the cameras running. It would be better if it wasn't really thumpy embroidery. Sometimes things like lace get kind of thumpy near the end because they're so dense. So you better listen along. Listen along. Embroidery channel. With nice smooth embroidery like this. The kids like to listen to the same song on YouTube for like an hour long, so they find all like the hour-long versions of 3-minute songs. It's super annoying. We could do the same thing with embroidery. We could just loop the embroidery from design to design and listen. The hour-long embroidery channel. I'll talk to Tyler. We can probably make this happen. I'm ready to move on, and the machine is not. I want to change threads. Getting excited. Brown left a fair number of thread tails, so I can trim those out before they get tangled in my white detail stitching. Curved thread snips are your friend. That are side hoppers. These weren't really jump stitches that needed to be cut. They were just loose tails that needed to be dealt with. So we announced it a couple weeks ago. Maybe that was last Friday. Maybe that was only last Friday we talked about it. For those of you who were part of our OESD Stitch Party program earlier this year, it was 7 projects and we ran it over 7 months. We have the design and class information for Stitch Party 2. So part of my big fun list of things to do is figure out how we're going to run that next year. So Stitch Party 2 will be a thing. We're not sure exactly how it's going to be set up, probably similar to how we did Stitch Party 1 this year. But it's 12 projects instead of 6. Very excited. That'll probably start in January. So if you're looking for ideas for friends and loved ones to give you for Christmas, you could ask for classes for Christmas. It's something I often do with my family, because usually I buy all the fun tools myself when they first come out and I need them for a project. And then we get to Christmas and my husband's like, but you spent all your money on your things already. So classes are a great Christmas gift, either for yourself or for a friend who's looking to get into sewing. Maybe you give them a mug rug and invite them to join you in a class. We're still doing classes virtually. They could be like your Sew at Your House buddy if you want. There's options. There's more stuff in the works. We're just a little bit held up with product not being here. Lots of product is here, but not always the things we want the day we want them. Gingerbread is making me hungry. Just so you know. You can't stitch food-related things on camera. It's rude to leave my Facebook Live presentation and go find snacks. Now I'm thinking about cookies. Thinking that I would like cookies today. son who doesn't like pie, so we probably need cake and pie at my house this weekend. Daughter absolutely loves pumpkin pie. Son won't touch any pie with a 10-foot pole. All those things is all those ingredients touching each other. It's just too much. Cake is okay though. It is nearly supper time, and there has been snacks at work today. Really, I'm fine. But embroider along demos are never short Facebook Lives. Thanks for hanging in there with me, guys. The machine says it has 1 minute left to embroider. It's the white stitch detailing here, and then putting our back pieces on, and then we'll flip this beastie inside out. Maybe? Might have to do this in 2 steps. Might have to take Nancy's. We're gonna do the magic of television for the last step, because I don't have a rotary cutter. Oh no, I do have a rotary cutter. We're set. We're set. Never mind. Let's grab the other things we need. Display back together. Oh, yeah. Oh! Tatiana spent the whole day embroidering? That sounds like a perfect Friday. Carol cleaned out her bobbin case while watching? Good job. Those are all solid things to do while you watch Facebook Live. I should probably sit down and watch Facebook Live and put binding on a quilt. It's hard to watch Facebook Live when you're in Facebook Live. Maybe that'll have to be the next channel, the binding channel. It'll be a very slow, calm, relaxing channel. We'll set some really soft music to it. Just watch me stab my fingers repeatedly with a hand sewing needle. We could watch the binding channel. Maybe that'll be motivation to get my binding done. Ooh, drinking coffee. If I drink coffee this late in the day, I'm going to be awake in the night. I used to be invincible. Then I hit my early 30s. And then I started waking up at 3 in the morning if I had coffee late in the day. Which I did not appreciate at 3 in the morning. You can go to sleep, no problem. Wide awake at 3 is not super fun. Carol, we need a glass of wine for the binding channel. We can make a binding channel. We can make an embroidery channel and a binding channel. I'll keep all these things in mind. We need some videos to film next week. The really exciting part of the binding channel would be removing the wonder clips as you go. That would be the extent of the excitement. That plunking right at the end there, that's getting a little thick through there. Just the candle wicking stitch where it's a whole bunch of individual satin stitches all going around in a circle. Those are often heavy and easy to stitch. Super wild and crazy and put a green back on this mug rug. Only because it was the scrap fabric the right size today out of the pile from the other samples we made. So our next step, we're going to be dealing with the back pieces. The markings we made on our hoop earlier is where we're going to line up the two pressed back pieces. They're both folded in half. We're going to put the folds towards the middle of the mug rug. I'm going to line up the first one with the far from it marking. Second one at the other end, also fold towards the middle. There should be it's about 3/8 of an inch overlap. It's important in this step. Just gonna slide this way. It's important in this step to tape this at that seam so that those don't catch your foot. And I tape longer than I need to because I don't want things to go wrong. Oop, two more tiny pieces of tape. We'll put those on the back. This is the back of our mug rug. All done. All in the hoop. It's magical. Do this without a sewing machine. It's great. Tempted here to put your fingers in the hoop and hold that. Don't. Stop the machine before you try and put your fingers in there. You don't want to catch on the tape either. I totally just did. Oh, I love this method for mug rugs too. It's so seamless. Oh, and if you catch on the tape, not pretty. Not pretty, Leah. I did not stick that tape down very well. So, do as I say, not as I do. Lessons in embroidery with Leah. I'm going to trim the thread. It's going to let me recover and take all that tape off my foot. It's poorly executed. Just going to continue back from where I left off. Making sure your tape is stuck to your fabric is really helpful. So it isn't the cause of your issues. But that bounding box stitches all the way around the whole mug rug twice. It's nice and secure. And just like that, we are done our mug rug. Other than the part where we need to like turn it right side out and trim it. So from here, my recommendation for how you deal with your mug rug from here is super simple. You're going to trim the whole thing at 3/8 seam allowance. It's going to give you a nice amount of fabric to hold on to turn. Get the hoop out of the way. We could take off extra tape at this point. It doesn't need to be there now. Stick all the tape to the table. So I'm going to trim this at a 3/8 seam allowance. This is wider than a traditional seam allowance for Lots of quilting applications, but it's a whole lot easier to turn and have really nice, clean, tidy corners. So lots of people are really tempted to angle off the corners in here. You don't want to do that and remove critical structure in your seam in your corner. We're going to do what we like to call Anne's corners for how we turn this right side out and get our corners nice and super flat. So that's all out. I'm going to wiggle back onto this camera. So in here, what we're going to do to turn the corners on this thing, I'm going to go in thumbnail up with my left hand. I'm right-handed, so this is going to work nicely. We're going to go up into the corner, thumbnail up, and I'm going to use my thumb as support, and we're going to fold the seam allowance back on a nice crispy line and back on a nice crispy line. If this is too bulky to do this with, you can trim out batting, and the cutaway stabilizer that I used, do not trim out your fabric. So we're going to make a nice 90-degree corner. It's going to be all nicely folded. We're going to take that from our thumb, transfer it onto our finger. And it's going to give us a nice 90-degree corner. Just looking at this one and knowing that I do have fuse and fleece and batting in there, I'm going to go in and trim those two out into the corner to reduce some of the bulk. Personal preference, you don't need to, but I don't want a bulky fat corner on my mug rug, tipping my coffee mug. And I'm not trimming fabric, just my batting and the soften, the fuse and fleece. So folding a nice 90 on my thumbnail, transferring it over to my finger. It's giving us a pretty square corner. We'll deal with that in a moment. Batting bits everywhere. Probably have one more to do. So I'm going to leave one chunky and one. I'm going to trim 3 and leave one untrimmed. Thumb up, fold that beautiful corner. This is way better than attempting to shove all that corner fabric into the corner. That's usually how you end up with super lumpy corners. One more to go. Didn't trim that one quite right. So we didn't trim any stitches, we didn't trim any fabric. Just like that. We have a mug rug. Theoretically, there's a stiletto right nearby. Just going to save our last step. So a stiletto also might be known as an awl. If your corners aren't as square as you want them, at this point you can go in and lift the seam out of the corner. And it's a gentle lift, not a pluck. You don't want to pop stitches. You don't want to make it angry. We could get those a little flatter. a little more square. Just lifting at the seam. And then from here, your best bet is a good press with some steam from the back into an OESD press cloth. And the steam and a clapper. I lost the clapper. It's not going to be that easy. We're going to have to stop the demo here. I lost the clapper and I have no steam. We're going to press this embroidery side down into an OESD press cloth. That'll give you a chance to finesse that edge of your mug rug. This press with a clapper. I do have a clapper. Hang on. It's a press cloth that's wandered away. The clapper on a hot seam will help press that and set that seam super crispy and flat. They are so lovely when you take care of that last step. It's that final finishing detail to take it from a little bit of a Ripley mug rug into a pristine, easy to mail gift. So, trim out my last two threads. Switch the camera back over to there. Mug rug. I think Nancy's done that on hers, so I'm gonna roll up the tape. So just for a frame of reference, after a good press, they're nice and thin instead of kind of poofy. Much nicer when they're crispy flat. So that's what I have for you guys today. Thank you for hanging out and watching an incredibly long embroidery channel episode of Facebook Live. If you haven't got your free CD for October yet, you have some time. They're not currently in the building. They're on their way. So even if you get to your $89 and we haven't received those yet, your name will be put in our request book. You'll be notified when your OESD Warm and Cozy mug rugs and cup wraps CD arrives. And then $89 Canadian will get you the CD for free. Or you can buy it for $89, but it makes more sense to get it for free with $89 of other stuff. So thank you guys. Have a super wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm going to sign off saying thank you for all of you who tune in and watch us do what we do. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you for all the warm comments you guys make. It makes our days. It's been a weird year, so thanks for hanging out. We appreciate it, and we'll see you around in Facebook Live or classes or here in store. Have a great weekend, everybody.